Ignore that I was just editing that second slide. Okay, this is my appropriately named slideshow for Spelunky 2. This is like the little damsel, the dog that you gotta save each level, and this is kind of like an Easter egg that you can kind of like do a bunch of secret actions to collect. Spelunky's full of secrets and full of challenges. And I like made a bunch of clips and illustrations and like actually diagrams too, just for this presentation. I'm gonna go on to my goals though. These are my goals for my presentation. So like there's a lot of cool stuff in this game. So there's just like a lot of stuff we can kind of learn from. I wanted to really make sure that this wasn't just me gushing about my favorite game this year, and like also me talking about like what strategies we can just take away and use for like whatever projects we're doing. And like Spelunky is a roguelike game, a roguelike platformer, so maybe not all of these like takeaways will be universal, but some of the stuff like the music, which I will go get into for like half this presentation, is very much universal in my eyes. Or like bits and pieces, you feel. And then a lot of the stuff is also just for roguelikes. Alright, this is the table of contents. It isn't very structured because the game is like, it's so interestingly like designed that I can't really talk about one thing without it leading into another. So like the general structure is like enemy design, soundtrack, level design, and then some other stuff. It's mostly going to flow between me talking about game design aspects as a whole, and then switching to music, and then switching back here and there. Here's a little illustration I made in very little amount of time. Okay, this is just about telegraphing in enemies. I actually sadly couldn't get. I'm showing 2 enemies here, and I sadly couldn't show a third, and it was actually pretty important, a third, and I'll explain it afterwards. But here's the first one. So we've got a little caveman. Once he sees you, he lets out a grunt and then starts sprinting towards you. And his sprint comes at a cost where I can place down an object just in the ground. It's a roguelike, so everything's very physical in nature. So I can pick stuff up and he can trip on it and the pot can break when he does so. Or I could just whip him. But he only takes damage while he's awake, not when he's stunned like that. And he has 3 hearts. So it's like a bit challenging. It's not like a Mario Goomba where you can just like bop his head once and he's out of the picture. You got like stuff to worry about. But this kind of works with the roguelike kind of experience because now you can pick up his body. His stunned body is now like a tool that we can use now. Let me go back to like just like I just put down a pot as like sort of a weapon, I can just throw his body and like he became a weapon, you know. But there's a risk because like he's just gonna wake up in a few seconds. Okay, here's the next enemy. Oh, this enemy is from the first game, and oh, I'm going to the wrong slide. What's happening? Okay. Anyways, this next enemy that I'm showing is from the first game. This is the one enemy in the game that if you jump on, you get killed instantly. The creator, his logic in this is that it's a plant that's colored red, and the logic is just that in nature, when plants are brightly colored or anything's brightly colored, it just means danger. So I'll give a little. Oh, and it's got sharp teeth. But like honestly, anyone who's played this game has tried jumping on this dude's head. They're just not real ones. So that guy, that's me showing a death. But just like the physical nature of roguelikes, I can just pick anything up. Torches, since he's a plant, is gonna just demolish this dude. He's gone in an instant. I can use my environment to kind of solve puzzles, like trouble I can be in. If he's in my way, he's obviously not in my way here, I could put a body in his path and I can just cross over him safely while he's stunned. Or maybe pick up a boomerang that another enemy dropped and use it to kill him. Here's a little example how they're really dangerous. Notice how like these guys are one-hit deaths, right? I could be at 400 health and these guys would kill me instantly. but there's two of them here. But I kind of just go over them easily. If you guys know anything like about like Celeste level design, sometimes they just add spikes just to add tension. So just like these guys, just it doesn't matter that these guys aren't in like too viable of spots. Like, am I really gonna fall here? I'll be on this tree and I'll jump here and out of the way. But it just adds a little bit of tension, making the level a little bit more exciting without like actually making it that hard. And I think that tension could be pretty powerful. Okay, next slide. I hope you guys like this little illustration. We got the little magnifying glass. Alright, enemies and their place in the setting. This time the illustration's ironic because Bowser has no fit here. I'm going to essentially show you guys the first 4 levels of the game, and I hope the music plays because essentially this one is half music, half me showing the world. Let me get back to, okay, do you see these yellow lizards? They're just like the cavemen, but instead of running towards you, they go. That's about it. Do you guys hear the sound? Okay, I'm like trying to go as fast as I can here in the game, so I don't like take up too much time. I'm sort of a speed run, so it's not gonna fit like the experience of like an actual someone's first 4 levels. But like we go through these caves, we see like drawings on the wall. There's cavemen sometimes here and there. There's wild animals like moles. The lizards aren't actually here, because it really sucks around this demonstration. But there's traps. It's kind of unclear where the traps come from. There's me escorting the damsel. So we got cavemen, we got the lizards. There's like a little example, I'll rewind there. Even the enemies can kind of just interact with each other, like the lizard's rolling, and it knocks the caveman out. The caveman easily could have just woke up a little earlier. The lizards are really just a threat of this area. And like, so we got like more drawings of cavemen and like hedgehogs. But I'm gonna rewind a little bit. Listen to this music transition. Oh wait, let me point something out first. You hear the beating of drums. You just get that ominous message the second you enter 1-4, which is the last level of this area. The music seamlessly switched from having all the instruments in play into having only the drums. Right after the message that says you hear the beating of drums. We have a boss here. Oh, you might have had to raise the volume. You can check it out later. We have a boss here that seems to be like the leader of like these caveman tribe. And if you guys like, if just thinking back to just like American history, how like the natives just like really like looked at animals as like reference for like their strength and just like other spiritual stuff. His attack is the same as the yellow lizards, but he's just bigger. It's like he's like it really speaks to him being like the leader. Like he's part of like nature. All the stuff comes together. The cavemen makes sense. He's the leader of the cavemen. The lizards, the biggest threat of this area, come together and like show him how to fight. Also, check out this trick shot. I didn't even. That's so sick. Okay. And that. Oh, I mean maybe, yeah. Alright, now. Oh, okay, I was just presenting. I don't want to give spoilers. Alright, it's together. Alright, now I'm going into like kind of a music aspect. And this is actually where it kind of gets interesting. You don't need to be a music dude to kind of like get a lot of benefit from this. So let's talk about the last game, Spelunky HD. It was for like Xbox. Derek was actually like Jonathan below went to Derek and was like, yeah, I can help you get this on Xbox. So like it's kind of a cool Worlds Collide history with them. And Derek asked this guy, Eric Cirque, to make the soundtrack for Spelunky HD. And there are 5 possible tracks per area. So you would load into a level, and there are like 4 levels per area, and each level you would just get a new like a new like song, and they would all have an emphasis on melody, just like any other song, just like Pokemon, you know, like all those like really focus on melody. Reasoning behind this choice is just that composer didn't want to go for the dynamic route because he didn't like that it would mean that he would have to sacrifice some melody. Also, Spelunky HD is a remake of Spelunky Classic, which is like kind of a retro game. He felt like the grid-like structure kind of means that you should combine modern graphics, but like the grid-like structure is kind of like retro, so it's kind of like a mix of retro and modern. I feel like that makes more sense on the melodic aspect. Alright, now Spelunky 2. One possible track break. We went from 5 different ones that gave a lot of variety to just one. And when Spelunky 2 came out, so many people complained. All like the streamers, like they started hating the first area's music, because as you can imagine, the first area people are dying a lot, considering it's just such a hard game. And the song continued on to the next level, so it didn't restart, but the song didn't change when you beat the level. And this made an emphasis on being dynamic. And the reasoning behind this composer's choice, whoever it is for Spelunky 2, is that the composer didn't go for the melodic route because they wanted it to be dynamic. They wanted to try that out. So like, notice how the reasonings are like the opposite between each game. It's like they just like prioritize something completely different. And then the reveal is that they're both composed by the same person. So it's like, I feel like the coolest thing about this is that both soundtracks are really good. And that it kind of tells us that there's no real answer to like whatever we go for. Spelunky 2 kind of, like, I do feel like the dynamic nature of the soundtrack fits better with a roguelike, which is very unpredictable. So I'll just move on from here. So music at your own pace. This is an interesting thing I discovered. It's a short thing. So the music playing like normal. Now's your chance to raise the volume if you haven't. Blah blah blah, music's playing like normal. I'm intentionally standing in this spot, and I do so for over a minute. At this point, okay, so it's playing the normal track here. And around this point, notice how there's no flutes, no marimbas, it's just the drums again. Only the drums. There's like a little strumming of some like guitar instrument or whatever, but I'm just standing still and the game's passing by and I'm just waiting there. It's like the game knows I'm idle. And then let's just fast forward, because at some point I get a little antsy and I decide to leave. You hear the drums still going, but when I get to around here, the marimba comes back, because the game recognizes that I'm not idle anymore. That's what being dynamic lets you kind of do. And it's a lot more work when you have 5 potential songs for each track, when you can just add one and you can have it really like change. A lot of what this is capable of, the reason this is really easy for them is because they use something called Fmod. I don't know a lot about Fmod other than like it's a machine. It goes crazy. It lets you have so much control of the music. You can have it like change alongside with the code. Instead of having like some black and white binary change, you can have the change be really granular and have like one specific instrument get louder the closer you get to like some object or whatever. So here's another music demo. This is the boss fight Olmec. This is, I think, the coolest example. Olmec has 3 stages. I like did a little comedic thing here, as you will see soon. There's 3 stages, and you have the option after beating the first stage to leave the level at any point. So you don't have to fight. You could beat the first stage, then book it. You could beat the second stage, then book it. But once you beat the 3rd stage, you're really rewarded. And that like choice gives players so many more choices. Like each different place you can book it and like exit the level brings you to a different area. And each area is like a little bit harder or a little bit less hard. The rewards are different. So much choice has been added to this game. Last game, it was kind of achievement if you got everything in the game. In this game, Derek wanted to make it so you couldn't do everything in the game. There's too many branching paths for that to happen. So let's just see where the branching paths really come from. So I'm entering the Olmec fight. It's silent. I skipped the little animation. The little animation that shows is that there's cavemen praying to him, and then he wakes up, and then he crushes the caveman. This isn't just a silly animation, it shows us how he attacks. He goes above you, and then he crushes. For the purposes of the demonstration, the sound demonstration, I'm going as fast as I can. I'm using a bunch of speedrun strats. So listen to the music, it's just drums and like some synth thing. I'll go back a little so you can. I'll take more questions about Olmec or whatever at the end. I'm really just going to be focusing on the music for this part. Second stage. Going through the floor starts the second stage. He's like some flying robot now. If you listen to the music now, there's some electric drum going on now. He has new modifications, the music has a new modification. Each stage is harder, so the music is more intense for each stage. Second stage is the last stage that happens. We listen to the music change. That little like is like exclusive to this area, and I think what it is, it's trying to represent the lava that's actually under us that you'll be able to see in a minute. And I think that it's kind of interesting because it's like threatening, but at the same time you'll see how it's kind of like comforting. Okay, he's about to die. The goal is to get him to fall into the lava, just like in the first game. Except in the first game, he was like the main entrance. So I succeed in getting him in the lava. There's going to be one final music change. The droning sounds take over, the drums leave. The droning sounds representing the lava, which before added tension. Now what it does is gives you comfort that he's dead and you can leave. And the reward for all that, for going above and beyond, is this Ankh. And the Ankh in Egyptian stuff apparently means you get to maybe respawn. Who knows, I don't know the history. And as you can see, I kill myself later in this clip by jumping in the lava, and then I get respawned. And now in a roguelike, you know how it's permadeath? The Ankh is a big thing. So like, anyone taking a serious run is going to go through all these stages of Olmec. Anyone who's a beginner, they're going to book it after they get into the first floor. And I show where you can book it soon here. So look, to the right, there's like a door on each level. The first one, this one's a little easier. You have access to this when you beat the first stage. And this is the second one, which is a little harder, that you have access to after beating the second stage. So like, your options just change the better you get. I don't know if I showed the little illustration on the other side. So we got stage 1, stage 2, and there's a comedic exaggeration of stage 3. Okay, now I made some diagrams just to make it a little more digestible. This is as modeled how the composer uploaded the music to his Bandcamp. So we have the intro, which is unavoidable. phase 1, it loops in-game. Phase 2, it loops in-game. Phase 3, when you get to it, will loop in-game. And then the dead, when he's dead, will loop in-game. So, like, you don't need Fmod to pull this off, right? Like, you can just program it. So you just gotta know when, like, the milliseconds happen when you get to phase 1, when it gets, before it reaches phase 2. If you're not there yet, then just set the playhead back to here. You can program that without Fmod, even for like a game jam or something. It's like, all you gotta do is just know like the exact time when to change it and stuff. But like that small little change goes a long way, if you put it in the right context, of course. Here's another area of a song. For the black market, the first 6 seconds are looped. If it's just some percussion, the rest of the song is some like jazzy tune. It's really sick. This is the dwelling, the first area. So we got an intro, we got A, B, and C, just like different sections, and then this kind of brings back to one of these other 2 sections. But if you remember the idle, when you're idle, it plays only percussion. When you're actually 2 health and under, it remixes the B section. Now, Fmod is probably best for a job like that, but when you're programming this yourself, maybe just having a separate version of the file is best. Now the jungle, another area, has an A section, a percussion, like kind of downtime, B and C, and then this second percussion is actually the one that's remixed when you're at 2 health or lower. And like notice how long each of these songs are. Like, yeah, it's kind of annoying that there's only 1 song per area, but Pokemon in its first games shipped with around 45 seconds on a loop, and even like into like Gen 4, we've got some like a minute 10 songs, and like everyone loves those, you know? So like, honestly, like, maybe you just make your like music decisions based off like how long you just end up making a song. Like, if you make a really long song, just have a dynamic thing. If you make it short and melodic, then like have something how like Pokemon has it, you know? Okay, that's enough music for now. This is a little level design area. I'm going to talk about how just like one well-designed like obstacle can kind of bring in a lot of opportunities for like having to think of how to solve a puzzle. And I think my kind of like argument for this is that like really good enemies can just like, your level design just becomes so easy because all you're thinking about is trying to think of levels to figure out the best of those enemies. And I'm going to show a situation of, I used a seated run here, so it's the same obstacle setup each time. And I'm going to show a different approach each time. And I think that's what makes something good, well designed, is when you have those multiple approaches, depending on, because you don't know how your playthroughs are going to go. Roguelikes are unpredictable once again, so it's better to give your player options. I'll put this one at 1.5. If it loads. Okay, so this first part, I'm going to be trying to get through this dart trap. This dart trap is motion sensitive, and if anything passes through it, an enemy, anything, it will fire out an arrow that does 2 damage. And if you start with 4 health, 2 damage is going to make you not want to get hit by that again. When Derek was making the first game back in 2008, people were just begging him, dude, you cannot have a dart trap do 2 damage. And he was like, no, I'm going to have them do 2 damage. His reasoning is that he really wanted people to know that he did not want them to get hit by it. In this game, he kind of lessened a bit. They still do 2 damage, but the projectile's a little slow, so you can dodge it. Makes you feel more powerful. It's cool, but you still have to be cautious. Anyways, here's me trying to just avoid it just by dropping down. Doesn't work. Take the 2 damage. This is me getting a jump start, so more velocity. Doesn't work. I get 2 damage. I throw a skull that I found. It triggers the trap. I put the dog down, or any other thing that will walk naturally in front of the trap. Maybe I trick an enemy into chasing after me from across the gap, and he falls in. T triggers the trap. I just drop the dog while holding it. The dog falls out of my hand, which could cause problems, as potential energy can cause, And here's another just random situation. I just inadvertently set off the trap by just blowing up a bomb nearby. A little gold particle. I'll rewind a little. A little gold particle just flies and sets off the trap. Here's another one. A gold particle is on the ground. I could easily just pick it up and add to my pool of gold, or I could just whip it. Because since it's a roguelike, everything's gotten physical in nature. I can just whip obstacles away, I'm whipping this arrow just to show that even the little arrows and stuff on the ground has collisions and react in some way. This was a big change that people wanted from the first game. But at the start of each playthrough, you start with 4 ropes and 4 bombs. So you could use some of those resources, but they can be pretty precious. Here's me just using my bombs, but if I'm going to use a bomb, I might as well just blow up the trap itself. Ropes are a little more valuable than bombs, and you can use them to climb, get down from just any ledge you really want to, but you can also use them to set off traps. Speedrunners use ropes to set off traps because it's just more consistent. They don't have to find anything. They always have ropes until they run out. Alright, this is the high skill ceiling version. So if you really want to try and practice, you can eventually just use your whip to hit the arrow midair while you fall. It's really hard, and I'll show a successful attempt of it. I'll show it again, and then I'll show a few fails before we move on. Okay. Now, every clip from now on is me failing at that. So getting the object to set off the trap can be tedious, but it kind of pushes players to want to learn that unnecessary skill, Alright, personalized difficulty that you guys should not know today. Okay, you guys will notice it. Okay, we know the branching paths. At the end of the first boss fight, you can go to either the jungle or the volcano. They're balanced enough, and it's really just up to you which whenever you think is easier. You get bored of one, go to the other. I really like this choice that you get. So many runs are that's a big decision, and it just makes it less, I'm just gonna say boring, because you can change up what you do. You don't have to do the same thing each time. The first game it's like a grind and there's a challenge, but when you get good enough, it's the same grind and it's the same challenge. End of the third area, which is this Olmec, you can either go to the desert or the ocean. I showed that to you. The ocean after the first stage, desert after second stage Olmec. You could go for any of the secret areas in each. There's kind of secrets and rooms and little actions you can do in each area, but they're a little extra challenge. You could find a little treasure chest in the first area, but you don't need to. But it'll help if you want to go further. And these little actions extend how long you can play. You can get to one of the final bosses, and if you did a certain few actions, you have access to go for a few more levels and then find another final boss, quote unquote. But there's also shortcuts for learning, which is from in the last game. They're just simple, they let you try out further areas in the low stakes environment while you're still learning. Very helpful. It still doesn't change anything about difficulty, but newcomers, this is very welcome for them because they get to try out stuff without anyone having to baby any difficulties. Because again, they're missing out on stuff that's in the other areas. Okay, this is a very, very, very important thing in roguelikes. You want these. You don't want somebody getting frustrated and just stopping to play their playthrough. You don't want them to just give up until all the stars align, So what you want is granular failure states. You don't want so you don't want a small in Pokemon you can get poisoned. You're not dead, but you're kind of at a disadvantage. That's a granular failure state. If your guy is just one hit in like instantly, then yeah, you just fail. It's black and white. Granular just means it's not black and white how you fail. But this kind of like unpredictability gives you a lot of freedom on how you can just kind of approach the game. So you can try out a different goal. There's a lot of different paths you can take, obviously. Um, Score is based on time. It could be based on like stuff you do. It could be based on just like gold you collect. You can try to get characters you haven't unlocked before by just going off the wayward path. You could try a new side quest by like stealing from shops or like donating turkeys to people. Go with the flow. You can embrace the unpredictable nature. Sometimes it's just fun if you accidentally hurt a shopkeeper to just pursue the life of crime. We've all been there. Redemption skills and redemption can like still come. So if you take a lot of damage, you can still like work your way back up in health. If you have a really nice item and you don't want to give up, you know. This is something that really all roguelites kind of need. And a lot of them do have this. I really want to like kind of start a conversation about some roguelites at the end of this. I know Hades, when you take some damage, you can kind of choose to go for like the health routes or sacrifice your like gold and get more health, blah blah blah. This is we're nearing the last slide, and this is just kind of a recap of the last time. So Spelunky HD has like 3 secret end levels, very hectic, insanely tough enemies, and there's a boss fight in hell, and then you're done with the game. And it ends with heavy metal music, and then a fanfare once he's dead. My inferred reasoning behind this choice is that like it kind of makes sense because like most games end in such like a hectic way, and like the hell area is just crazy. Like there's a bunch of new traps. They're a lot tougher than like the traps that we played the whole game with. But let's see how the second game ends its game. So first there's 3 levels in Sunken City, complete like setting opposite of hell actually. And then there's a second boss fight. The music in the Sunken City is chill. I think they use like some weird like gongs or whatever. And then like the second boss fight it is hectic and has intense boss battle music like you would expect. But then the third part of the ending is just 95 secret levels at the end. And they're throwbacks to previous levels, nothing new. It's not like the hell area, which is a bunch of new stuff. This is stuff you've encountered already. And it's this calm music, very similar. Like you expect this music coming out of a Summoning Salt speedrun video. Like it's that chill. And it goes on for 12 minutes. The song goes on for 12 minutes because these 95 levels sometimes take like an hour and a half to beat. And like sure, you can choose a boss fight in the first game, but you can't, if you choose one level, there's 94 more levels to beat. My like guess behind the reasoning behind this choice is that I really feel like this is a better representation of mastery. Where like my first time beating Spelunky HD, the one where the hell boss fight, it was just hectic. My blood was pumping, it made sense, like, but did I really master it if that was my first time doing it and first time beating it? It wasn't effortless for me. It took a lot of effort. It was like very hectic. It was a great experience, but like I wasn't really a master if I was just doing it at one time. And now let's just think about how flow state. If you guys know the idea of flow state, how like professional athletes, just musicians, just like really get in the zone, like they're kind of like focused and honed in. Like the calm music just like speaks to this. And the fact that it goes on for so long and just meshes with itself at the end, like it just makes more sense than just like distracting heavy metal music, you know? And that's the end of my presentation. Let me know if you guys got any questions or got any roguelike stuff to bring up, because I haven't played a lot of the greats. Like I haven't played Binding of Isaac, or I haven't played much of Gungeon either. So let me know if you guys got any things to bring up.